businesses are a major economic force here in the city of Eden Prairie. In all, there are more than 2,000 businesses, and they employ upwards of 50,000 people. Hi, I'm Pat Brink, and this is Business Eden Prairie. In the next half hour, we're going to talk to some companies, we're going to talk to some officials, and we'll talk to some experts about Eden Prairie and how we've gotten to where we are today. Up first on today's show, we're going to be talking with Jay Novak. Jay is presently the editor of Twin City Business Monthly, but in a prior lifetime, he was the Commissioner for Trade and Economic Development under Governor Arne Carlson. We'll talk with Jay a little bit about why Eden Prairie is what it is today.
Minnesota is an outstanding place in which to start and run a business. And Eden Prairie shares in all the advantages that are attendant to the state and to the metropolitan area. We have great access to capital. We have strong access to markets, good transportation systems. We have tremendous access to education, a very well-educated workforce. We have hardworking people, relatively low energy costs, and maybe most importantly, for startup companies, a great deal of expertise. My strong impression is that there was a good deal of deliberation, a good deal of thoughtfulness. City officials looked at what sorts of companies, what mix of companies they wanted to have here in this community, and they were selective. They could afford to be selective, and they were sensible to be selective. And you have a tremendous mix of industries, clean industries, high-paying industries, good citizens. Easy access to the Flying Cloud Airport and much more importantly the International Airport. A very good location for people doing business nationally, internationally, or anywhere in the metropolitan area. It's access to other locations is terrific relative to other suburbs and relative to the central cities. Even if you look at just the top 25 companies, the largest 25 companies in Eden Prairie, you have a tremendous economic diversity. You have companies that are large, that are clean, that are economically healthy, that are good citizens. Companies like Starkey and LifeTouch, Western Petroleum, Value Vision, Super Value, C.H. Robinson, just companies run by people that you'd be proud to know and pleased to have as neighbors. There are in Minnesota 162 publicly traded companies, of which Golf Galaxy here in Eden Prairie is the most recent. 19 of those 162, or 12%, are here in Eden Prairie, are headquartered in Eden Prairie. You've got terrific location for people especially in executive jobs, at a large number of public and private companies, larger companies. And you have a very pleasant community. You have a great shopping, terrific housing stock, easy access to to all the amenities that people move to metropolitan areas for. The future looks very good. You've got this diverse mix of industries, of companies that are growing. There's probably more economic diversity here in Eden Prairie than there is in any other square of the state where you have 60 to 65,000 people. It's really an astounding mix. Incidentally, there are 19 publicly traded companies in Eden Prairie. There are 38 in all of Iowa. You have half as many in a city of 60 or 65,000 as the entire state of Iowa. And it's I don't know how meaningful that statistic is, but it's a fun one for Eden Prairie residents to know.
One of the surest signs of a city's vitality is its office occupancy rate. And recently, all too often, that was too high. Here in Eden Prairie, many of the buildings in the Golden Triangle especially needed tenants. But in talking with experts, we're finding that that's now changing here in the city. At one time, in the not too distant past, it seemed as if everywhere you looked in Eden Prairie, a for lease sign was sure to be in your field of vision. Well, Thankfully, there are now far fewer of those signs in the city. North Star Partners, a real estate firm located here in the city, tracks the market, and its information shows that office vacancy has gone down from nearly 27% in the third quarter of last year to just over 17% in the third quarter of 2005. Dave Jellison of Liberty Property says those figures don't surprise him.
I think we're seeing a lot of improvements in the office environment. Most tenants over the last 3-4 years have been downsizing, and right now most of them don't even have an extra broom closet left that they can put somebody in. So if you hire a person or two today, you really have to be dealing with your landlord to find out where you're going to put those people, because everybody's downsized so much. And now we're back into the growth mode where companies are starting to say, we need to start looking at 3 and 5 and 7 and 10-year plans. There's how are we going to grow our company, and where are we going to put the people we need to put back into our offices.
A huge percentage of Liberty's holdings in the metro area are in the southwest suburbs, and Eden Prairie in particular. Jellison says Liberty is here because of all that's offered.
I think strategically it's a great location, and I think it's got a great deal of amenities in the area that are just a real plus for a lot of our tenants. The school system in Eden Prairie is outstanding. The walk paths around the lakes and that type of area all add to a working environment that's really pleasing for our tenants to be in. So it's a great spot.
Another reason that Liberty has expanded in the city is as a result of the city's leaders.
Overall, in our development process, working with the city is probably one of the most important criteria you have. And Eden Prairie is not they're not extremely difficult to work with. You really want a city that is consistent, and I think Eden Prairie is that. The mayors have been good. They've got good planning for what they want to do with the city and where they're going.
As you would imagine, the building where Liberty Properties' own offices are located at 10400 Southwest Crossing is one of Jellison's favorite buildings here in the city. And he's upbeat that as a company, Liberty will continue to be a major force in Eden Prairie and the southwestern suburbs.
I think overall Liberty's doing really well. We've had a difficult time over the last 3 years because as companies start laying off employees, that's the last thing a landlord wants to see. You want to see them adding employees, and we haven't had that. But we've turned the corner. We're coming back.
Like just about any city here in America, Eden Prairie has a Chamber of Commerce. And Pat Mulqueeney, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, recently sat down with us and talked about what his organization does and how it works with the city. The recent grand opening of Best Buy was also an opportunity for the Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce to welcome yet another new business to the city. There, on the right, next to the mayor, is Pat Mulqueeney, the president of the Chamber.
Our biggest thing is networking. The majority of our businesses are smaller or medium-sized companies, and their main focus is to network and build their business. So we put on over 100 events yearly that give our members opportunities to come out, meet other business people, make connections, and get sales leads.
The Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce has more than 450 businesses as members, and those businesses have some 25,000 employees. The Chamber, like the city, continues to grow.
There's just an energy to Eden Prairie. Businesses are excited to be here. More and more businesses are opening, and with that, I think there's that excitement that business people can feel about a community. They also like the education system, speak positively of the area's schools. The parks are a benefit, a lot of parkland here, and all those things tie together to make it very attractive for businesses.
For more than 3 years, Pat Mulqueeney has led the Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce, and he says it's been rewarding as the city has a lot to offer business.
Businesses have seen it as a great opportunity once you started getting some of the larger businesses here. More and more businesses followed, as well as a lot of technology companies. So Eden Prairie was seen as a cutting-edge community and still is in terms of businesses, and kind of the place to be for businesses to place their organizations, recruit employees, and have great transportation system available.
The Chamber's overall mission is to be an advocate for its members, the businesses in the community. And so the city and the Chamber don't always see eye to eye, but their relationship is a very open one.
We're, I think, in a very proactive approach, that we have very positive relationships with city council and city staff. We have quarterly meetings with the city manager and the mayor and myself and our chair of our board, just to kind of touch base, see how things are going, any issues on the horizon that we need to stay in touch with, whether it's going to be something that we're not going to agree on or that it's something we can work together in partnership.
Let's look at the leaves.
Oh, look at that one over there.
Ooh.
Is that a red and yellow mix? Look at that thing.
Look at the vibrant colors.
That is a neat one.
Ooh, look at that one.
Isn't that a neat one too?
Ew, what's that?
That's algae. When people don't rake up their leaves, some end up in our lakes, and that helps the algae grow and makes our lakes look gross. Rake your leaves.
Eden Prairie has probably more than its fair share of high technology companies. One of those companies is Stratasys, a publicly traded company that's growing so rapidly that it's now in 5 separate buildings here in the city. Scott Crump is an engineer by schooling, but his ideas, tenacity, and experience at another startup company have helped him to steer Stratasys into one of the fastest growing companies in the state.
Well, we've had really stellar growth. Some years early on growing 125% per year. Right now we're targeting in the 20% per year, maybe 25.
Stratasys began in 1989 with Scott and his wife as the only employees. Today the company has nearly 300 employees worldwide, and most of them are here in Eden Prairie. So what are these machines that are helping Stratasys continue to grow? Scott describes the basic idea as a 3D printer of sorts.
We extrude out or melt out a flow of plastic, and so if you think of it as a plastic is melted to the consistency of honey, and then it sets up and bonds to the previous layer. So then you extrude out another layer, and the heat of it actually bonds or melts, fuses to the previous, all controlled by the computer.
The machines help business by producing usable prototypes.
What it does is speeds up their product development process, because the further you get into your design, the more expensive it is to go back and fix it.
In addition to producing the machines, Stratasys also manufactures the material needed to operate its machines.
The material comes out of here, gets fed into the machine into what's called a liquefier, and the liquefier melts the plastic, and then it gets extruded out of that moving head that you saw that's laying down layer by layer to build the model up. And we manufacture all this material for all of our machines right here in this building, actually.
Crump says his company is located in Eden Prairie because of its employees.
You have an excellent, absolutely excellent employee skill base in this area. That compares nationwide. Some of the three-dimensional geometries that it originally spun off from control data is big here. It's huge, and it's a fun place to live, a fun place to work. We like to be in Eden Prairie, like to stay here and grow here.
Well, apparently that's true. Scott Crump and Stratasys recently purchased yet another building in which to expand into right here in Eden Prairie. Well, there's another company here in Eden Prairie, but in this case it's a much smaller one. East of Eden Salon has been in business now for just over a year, and its owner, Kim Van Tran, was recently named Small Business Person of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce.
I was so excited, and in my heart I just say, wow, this is a dream. This is a dream come true. I was, you know, I was so overwhelmed and happy and excited. I said, wow.
And first-time customers to Kim Van Tran's East of Eden Salon are also occasionally heard to utter, wow.
Make people feel good and look good.
This service isn't a special or an add-on just for the camera. It's part of the everyday service at this salon.
It's more with my background. It's very important for me to have beauty and wellness come together. So everybody come here to get their hair done. They also get massage with it, and like shoulder massage and neck massage and a head massage.
Yes, East of Eden is a full-service salon. It offers hair, nail, and skin care to its customers. Kim Van says people need the special attention that they receive at her shop. And she adds that after her life in Vietnam, she too enjoys seeing people made happy.
My dad came here with my 3 older brothers and 1 sister. So half of my family is still back in Vietnam with my mom. That includes me and my 2 older sisters and 1 brother. We have 8 children in my family.
In 1991, Kim Van and the rest of her family moved to Minnesota, where she finished high school and then enrolled in hair classes. And while running a successful salon is important to Kim Van, there's something else she's even more thankful for.
I really thankful for everything that American country that have offered my family a freedom to come here. And I know there is God blessing my family to be here today. That's one thing that's more important for me more than anything else.
And her customers of all ages are happy that she's here in Eden Prairie and operating the East of Eden Salon.
I'm somebody else.
Oh.
Businesses large and small in Eden Prairie see Flying Cloud Airport as a real benefit. But if you think about it, Flying Cloud's much more than just planes landing and taking off. It's a world unto itself with refuelers and schools, and even airplane sales go on here. But one company we'd like to introduce you to is one that does interior redesigns for airplanes, Aerovation. Tucked away at the edge of the buildings and hangars at Flying Cloud Airport is a small company that's been on the airport since 1982. Aerovation customizes the interiors of private and business planes, and, like the entire aviation industry, 9/11 crippled its business.
You know, of course, 9/11 was the worst case scenario when all of a sudden it's terrible to be on an airport and not have airport noise. So that day was, you know, and the weeks that followed were scary, and in fact put our business right on the edge of closing the doors or not.
Aerovation obviously didn't close up shop, but the company's focus has changed.
There's a new standard now. And because we don't see as many of the full refurbs, it's a lot of service. The service side of the business is what's the strongest right now.
Attention to detail and service have always been what sets Aerovation apart.
The trick to this part is to do the modification to the existing curtain, but make it look like it was part of the plan. I mean, you want it to look as neat and, you know, clean as possible, and that's what I'm hoping for.
To continue growing, the company is expanding its services. North Memorial Hospital is having the company convert corporate helicopters into emergency medical copters.
We've done upholstery work for them in the past, but doing the actual medical conversion is something new that's working out as a good relationship with them.
As much as he likes his work and its location, Owen says he is disappointed that the airport expansion has not happened.
It's misperceived, I think, by the general public. You think you're going to be airlines flying in and out, and it's not. It's a lot of the airplanes we're asking for are airplanes that are quieter than what they've known here for years. You know, it's the newer generation airplanes. And they need the runway length, and it's a safety issue. And those are the planes we really service, which for us, it is a challenge not having that.
School bus stop arms mean just that. Stop. The flashing amber and red lights are there to warn you. Slow down, stop, and do not pass. Because if those flashing lights don't get you, these will. Please keep our kids safe and yourself ticket-free.
Eden Prairie is home to many new and relatively new companies trying to get bigger and more profitable. According to the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal, 10 of the 50 fastest growing companies in the state are located right here in Eden Prairie. One of those is Hound Dog Products. Weeds in your backyard? Then you need this.
You just walk up to the weed and put the weed hound in the center of the weed, and all you have to do is step down and it pulls the weed right up, just like that.
Hound Dog Products started with just this one product, but now, 10 years later, the company has added an entire line of products designed to make your life easier and your living space look better.
It's got to be something I can't break, or, because otherwise we can't offer our lifetime warranty, and I don't want stuff breaking.
Bachman's now carries many of the products Hound Dog offers, as do hardware stores. But when the company first began, it was a tough sell getting the weed puller into these stores.
It was obvious to us that we needed a couple more products. So we listened to our customers, and they had a couple of ideas, and we launched 2 more products.
Items from tillers to bull planters to, yes, even pooper scoopers are now all part of the Hound Dog line. And the latest addition to the product line? Well, being a Minnesota company means you do need a product for the winter months.
When you hit, that second blade will come down and give an extra pop to the ice. So we invent these tools so that you can solve your backyard problems, each problem in 15 minutes or less. So
the trend of trees, you understand. Every fall the leaves turn colors, whether a beautiful yellow or a red, and then fall to the ground. But for other trends, it's not that easy to identify. And that's where a company right here in Eden Prairie, Trend Curves, comes into play. They help identify trends for the furniture industry. Choices. When you're shopping for furniture, you have choices. Stripes, florals, bright, muted, black, white, dots, squiggles. Choices, choices, choices. How do all these become part of your choices?
Really, we're focused on home furnishings. That's what we do here.
Marketing Directions is an Eden Prairie firm that works with furniture makers to forecast colors and trends.
Looking at lifestyle influences, looking at demographic shifts and saying, if this is what's happening now, and if this is today's trend, then what's tomorrow's trend?
So what's hot now?
Color is so important right now. In fact, there couldn't be anything more important than color.
And what about tomorrow?
So if you think about these colors used individually or together, you can see all kinds of applications for them. Consumers will begin to see these skin tone neutrals out at retail within the next 6 months. They'll start noticing them then. They'll go all the way into 2007. But that's our job. We introduced this back in August of last year. So it's our job to be ahead of the trend so that if you're a retailer, you can prepare your assortment. If you're a manufacturer, you can start developing color stories.
Marketing Directions isn't just about trend spotting. The 8-person company also publishes the Trend Curve newsletter, develops color palettes, creates forecasts for kids and Christmas colors, and consults with manufacturers and retailers. And the reason the company is headquartered in fashionable and trend-setting Eden Prairie, Minnesota?
It is a 4-minute commute from my house, also in Eden Prairie. It is down the block from my son's school at Oak Point, and my daughter's at Eden Prairie High School. So this was a very carefully planned and orchestrated move. In fact, when this building went up,
there was a time, and it wasn't too long ago, that Eden Prairie was nearly all agricultural land. Well, it's tough to find farmland today, but there's one company that's still firmly rooted in the hen house right here in Eden Prairie.
Very early in the morning, the rooster sends out his call, and the chickens begin to wait.
Chickens in Eden Prairie? About the only place that you'll find chicken in Eden Prairie today is in your grocer's meat case.
This will do 100 pounds of birds at one time, 30 seconds.
In 1939, the Pickwick Company in Cedar Rapids started manufacturing these chicken plucking machines. The chicken plucking machine part of the business was sold a couple of times and is now known as the Pickwick Canesi Company, and its headquarters is right here in the city. Tom Canese has kept this company in Eden Prairie for a number of reasons.
I think the key thing is the complex we're in. It's for small businesses.
And Tom is a small business selling mainly to people that are raising chickens for their own consumption.
A lot of just backyard people out in the country that raise 25, 30 birds a year.
Tom's business is a worldwide one, and he sells his chicken pluckers to people and companies as far away as the Virgin Islands and the Bahamas.
A small guy like me, yeah, it's just unbelievable that if I know you guys are on the books and I've got to pay one of my vendors or something, I know what's coming in. So, yeah, I really appreciate your business.
So even though Eden Prairie has little farmland left, at least one business still has strong and deep roots in the farming community. For Business Eden Prairie, I'm Mike Baroni.
Well, over the course of the last half hour, we really didn't have a chance to take a look at the retail scene here in the city, but needless to say, it's doing well. Recently, Costco opened its doors, and another company moved to town, Best Buy. So as we leave you today from this edition of Business Eden Prairie, we're going to take a look at the building of Best Buy. Thanks for joining us.